Every Roman coin collector wants a coin of the great philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius. I know, but as the saying goes, behind every important man there's an equally important woman, and that's no exception for Marcus here. His wife, Faustina the Younger, was the daughter of one of Rome's most well-liked couples, the previous emperor Antoninus Pius and his wife, Faustina the Elder. Faustina the Younger is another very prominent figure in the coinage of 2nd century Rome. So today we're going to have a quick look at her coins, as well as a quick overview of this lady's history. Let's go! Faustina was born around 130 AD, the only surviving daughter of the Emperor Antoninus Pius with his wife, the Empress Faustina the Elder. Antoninus was declared the next emperor by his predecessor, Hadrian, under the condition he would designate the young Marcus Aurelius as his heir to the throne. To formalize the union between Antoninus and Marcus, Faustina was given to Marcus Aurelius in marriage. Due to the calmness of the period they lived in, we don't know a whole lot about Faustina. What we do know is that in the business of producing heirs to the throne, Marcus and Faustina were very prolific, producing nothing less than 14 confirmed sons and daughters. Sadly, many died when they were still young, but some reached adulthood and prominence, like Lucilla and the future Emperor Commodus. The first coin issues of Faustina were made right after she had her first child with Marcus. The occasion was celebrated by her father rising her to the rank of Augusta, as the position of empress was vacant after the sudden death of her mother a couple years before. Coins of Faustina the Younger and posthumous pieces struck for her mother circulated side by side as a show to the Roman people that despite the sudden demise of their empress, another young and noble lady was assuming the responsibilities and carrying on the imperial lineage. That is a good clue for us to look at our first coin of the day, a piece struck between 148 and 150 AD, when Faustina was a young lady of just 18-19 years of age, and her father, Antoninus Pius, was still in charge. On the obverse we have this marvelous bust of Faustina as a young lady. That's a very well-accomplished image of her, clearly showing she was a young woman with a remarkably well-detailed hair like the one in the coins of her mother. Faustina was considered one of the prettiest women in Rome. Looking at the legends, we can read her new title as Augusta and the reference to her as the daughter of the emperor. It reads, Faustinae Augusta, P. Augustus Filia, which roughly translates to the Empress Faustina, empress and daughter of the incumbent emperor. The reverse, very fitting for a young lady whose main job was to propagate the imperial lineage, we have Venus, the goddess of love and passion. Venus is at the center of this design, wearing very delicate robes, holding an apple in one hand and a rudder at the other. What I find remarkable about this particular coin type is that gold ori was also struck with the exact same bust type, legends and reverse style, indicating that probably the same artist who sculpted the dice for the gold coins must have also sculpted dice for silver denarii, hence the very high quality of the portraits on both gold and silver. Some busts of Faustina, particularly the later ones, can be ugly, but the very first coins of her are very good looking. For our next piece we go a little bit further in time, when her husband was already in charge and she was empress in her own right. This is a very common type for Faustina, struck for many years between 161 and 176. By this time the image of Faustina was already well established. She was highly respected and accompanied the emperor on his campaigns, winning the affection of the troops and being hailed as Mater Castrorum, the mother of the camp. On the obverse we now have an older looking bust of the emperor. Now she doesn't look like a girl anymore, but a proper woman. Notice the flow lines in this obverse, absolutely delightful. At the time of striking of this coin, for this effect to happen, the flan must have been particularly hot, making the metal, the silver, very malleable, and the hammer blow imprinted deeply the dislocation marks of the silver outwards, and it is still appreciable today. Lovely. The legends are quite straightforward. Faustina Augusta, Faustina the Empress. Looking at the reverse, we have Juno, the queen of the gods and wife of Jupiter. Notice how we depart from Venus, a goddess much more related to passion, to youthful energy, and now we have the dignity, the gravitas of a much more serious goddess. Juno holds a scepter, demonstrating her position as a major goddess. She holds also a patera, a pen used on religious ceremonies to give liquid offerings, and by her feet there's a peacock, a bird closely associated to empresses, to refinement, to the whole idea of the empress. All in all, a coin that passes a different message compared to the previous one, much more serious, mature, but still relatively light-hearted, as an empress was supposed to be a counterbalance to the somber image of the emperor. During this later period, some of Faustina's most fascinating coins, in my opinion, were struck. Her remarkable fertility is depicted on coins of all metals, but the sestertii are particularly beautiful, showing her carrying on the reverse 2 small children on her arms and many others by her feet pulling her dress, and the lovely dedication on the legends to her, Fecunditas Augustae, to the fertility of the empress. That is a coin that is definitely on my want list for the future. It's lovely, it's so passionate looking, and it sets the tone for the good times the empire and the imperial family were living through. The only truly remarkable episode in Faustina's history is quite an unfortunate one. In 175 AD, Faustina may have inadvertently inspired a revolt against her husband. That is, a Roman general called Avidius Cassius declared himself emperor because he received news from Faustina that Marcus Aurelius was on his deathbed. Marcus eventually recovered and he marched against Cassius with his legions. However, before the two armies could meet, Cassius was assassinated by his own soldiers. The reason behind all of this is anyone's guess. Faustina could have been Avidius' lover, Avidius might have been a traitor, it could all have been just a genuine, massive misunderstanding. To make matters worse, while on campaign with her husband that year, Faustina died suddenly after a short illness. The entire situation and her sudden death raised all kinds of conspiracy theories. Some say she killed herself in fear of her husband finding out about her proposed treachery, while others claim she did indeed die from natural causes. We will never know what truly happened, but the accounts say that Marcus Aurelius was truly saddened by her death and dismissed any claims that she was involved in the plot. As a result, she was immediately deified, and a series of coins commemorating her deification were issued, just like her mother was. Faustina's consecration coins are not nearly as numerous as the ones from her mother, but they are still quite numerous. Here's an example from the Mint of Rome, right from the year of her sudden death. On the obverse we have a bust very similar to the previous coin, a mature but still youthful lady in her early 40s. No veiled portrait or any signs that she had passed away. The legends, however, now tell us she is among the gods. Diva Faustina Pia, the pious goddess Faustina. On the reverse we have a small altar where the final ceremonies in her memory would be conducted and she would be eventually cremated. Around the altar we read consecratio, literally meaning consecrated, meaning the Roman Senate had officially passed a decree that raised her status to divinity. But my absolute favorite piece of Faustina celebrates the devotion the soldiers had to her. Not only she accompanied her husband on campaign, but testimonies claim that she was indeed interested on the well-being of the soldiers as far as she could. Hence, as I mentioned previously, she was called the Mater Castrorum, the mother of the camp. In this very touching posthumous aureus, we have her veiled portrait with the legends Divae Faustinae Pii, to our pious goddess Faustina. And the reverse shows her personifying Fides, the goddess of fidelity. We can see Faustina sitting down, holding a globe with a little phoenix, sort of like an analogy to immortality and undying devotion. And next to her, there are 3 military standards, showing that it is Faustina herself in this scene right next to a military encampment. Quite a touching design from an exquisite and rare type of aureus. Our little Faustina II is historically overshadowed by the absolute giant that was her husband, but she's another character that has a very special place in the hearts of Roman coin collectors due to the sheer abundance of her coins and, frankly, the beauty of the portraits in these coins. Do you have a coin of Faustina? Let us know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this little episode. Leave a like and consider subscribing if you did. Happy collecting, and I'll see you soon.